of Adjustment meeting, our April 18th meeting to order. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our board. We'll start at the end.
Donna Cook.
Brian Baker.
Anil Vera.
Kathy Slagle.
Frank Lamia.
Thank you. So first order of business is approval of the minutes of March 21st, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes from the March 21st meeting be approved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Our first order of business is BOA 22.04. It's a public hearing to consider the request of the applicant, Rob Littleton, acting on behalf of owner Patricia Niemeyer, for a 14-front setback variance as well as a 30-foot rear setback variance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got to just give a little accolades to Casey Pott, our new city planner. She did a lot of the work, had an emergency, so I'm going to present for her, but she did the legwork here. So this request is from Rod. As you said, I won't reread everything. What the variance is, this is a R1 low-density single-family residential district. The setback would be 5 feet in lieu of the required 35 foot in the rear, and the front setback would be 26 foot in lieu of the required 40 feet in the front. So the property is adjacent to Fly Creek. The zoning map is on the left. You can see everything around is R1 single family residential. This is on Creek Drive, and the aerial on the right. So you can see the property line doesn't quite line up with the land. The erosion, whatever the meandering of the Fly Creek has reduced the size of the lot as originally platted. And you can kind of see that overlay where the boat is. Some of that land is water. So this was heard in 2014. The request at that point in time was a 30-foot variance to the rear setback and a 10-foot variance to the front setback. So the difference between those two cases is the 4-foot extra requested in the front. The staff did recommend, this is a very unusually shaped lot. It has wetlands on the southeastern side. I'm sorry, I got to take a look. Yep, southwestern side of the lot. The case before you today, like I said, it changes that 14-foot. And what Casey took a look at is really take a look at the blow up of this image and what is highlighted. That's what is encroaching past the 30-foot setback as approved in 2014. So really what I think Casey looked at, what we look at is topography, size, shape of the lot, and can things be moved around. And what she looked at is just simply moving this property a little bit further southwest in the layout as designed meets the setbacks of the 30 and 10 as approved in 2014, stays out of the required wetland buffers, and everything's fine as approved. So I think her argument was, well, what's the need of the additional 4 feet? So ultimately, she looked, and I kind of want to show you something here. If you look at that last image, we do allow, and it's really defined in yards. What we're doing with setbacks is creating yards, not necessarily houses. So we want those to be set back, we want those to align, and we allow 2 feet over the setback lines for eaves, architectural details, things like that. And sometimes those overhangs have been taken advantage of. So what kind of gets with this 4 feet, if you look on the bottom image, with the property lines here, there's 4 feet of an overhang, and then there's a 3-foot, maybe a little further, eave. So we're between 7 and 8 feet overhang there. So that's in essence what it is, and those are shaped similar to what you see here. So you can understand that visually, that's those bump outs. We do look if there other opportunities, and simply moving of this, the topography of this site is not that great. It's the size and shape is that it does warrant a variance, but the topography, so moving it that far, there's no trees to contend with that we know of. So we didn't see an issue with moving that, and at the end of the day, Casey did recommend that we deny. I support that decision. The request of the 30-foot rear setback variance and 14-foot. But we do say we would support the variance as granted in 2014. If y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Rob Littleton is here? Not
Yeah,
Little?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Is here if we have any questions.
So Hunter, just
They might have questions for me first.
Oh,
and then
okay.
you go on. Yep.
just to clarify, I read it before, I'm just clarifying what you just said. It was already, so they're really just asking for a difference of the 10 to the 14, the front. Everything else has already been granted. We're not creating a new variance.
No, the variance that was granted in 2015 expired. So
Oh,
there's
because
1
it's
year
standalone?
to, 1 year to do two things with any variance. You have to record that with a probate, and you have to act on it.
Right.
So you have to actually begin
Okay.
construction. So neither of those two things were done. It expired in 2015 sometime.
Okay.
So right now, there is no variance on this lot.
Okay.
So it's entirely feasible to say no variance granted. I don't think that's the right answer here.
I'm just making sure I
Yes, sir.
understood that, the
Sure.
difference. And then the overhang thing that you mentioned, the
Mhm.
yard is allowed a 2-foot, it's about what the code, the zoning ordinance says is 2 foot. So if there's a overhang that's 3 foot or greater that you're describing, do we need to take that into consideration as well?
I think giving the 10-foot, it's about the setback here, not looking at each piece.
Right.
So if we know what the setbacks are, we can make sure that those are met. And I think moving that over accommodates those.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
20-foot wetland buffer.
Yes, ma'am.
It's only 20 feet in Fairhope. It's 30 feet in Baldwin County.
So the difference there is when we look at subdivisions, when lots are created, the wetland buffer is 30 feet. So anything that's created nowadays, any new lots will be 30-foot buffer. This was done way back in the standalone ordinance. The city has 2 wetland protections. One is in our subdivisions when people are developing, and then one's in the building code when somebody just comes and pulls a building permit. And there maybe wasn't wetland protections on those sites when those lots were created. I think these were in the 50s. That wetland buffer is 20 feet. And the logic applied there is when we do subdivisions and people are creating 80 lots, we really need a bigger margin of error. When it's one lot, something this small, they can really tell, they're looking at one lot and seeing where the wetland is. So there's a better chance to get it right and not create situations where you need to get a driveway across a wetland buffer and you completely block it with a 30-foot buffer, where maybe you wouldn't have access to the buildable area of the lot. So that's, the standalone city ordinance requires a 20-foot buffer for just building permits. So that's what's applied here. Because when these lots were created, we didn't have a wetland protections.
So we know that there is no driveway going in over that wetland buffer?
We do not know that. We are not looking at that, but logically, where the house is and parking underneath, you're going to want to come in on that northwest side. But it is something, feel free to ask. We didn't look at driveways within this variance request.
Would that be caught during the building permit process?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so was a delineation done on that by the,
Yes.
okay, and that is,
Yes. Now, yes, that, and what, I have to look here. I believe on the image on the screen, this is the wetland, and that shows the wetland and the wetland buffer. So even with that wetland buffer would allow the house to move and fall within the setbacks as approved in 2014.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure. There's nothing else? Rob, if you
This time we'll ask the applicant to make his presentation or add to anything.
You what?
You'll state your name.
Yeah, I'm Rob Littleton.
Will
I'm
you give your address just for the record?
302 Poplar Place, Fairhope, Alabama. This is our lot. And if you could you go back and like just start? Is that how you do that? Okay, just back, okay, all right. As you can see from this picture, this is how much this lot has changed. A lot of that changed in the flood of 2014. You can see that we actually have a boat in the water, what should be land. And you can see that my property line really goes to my next door neighbor's pier. Now that's how much property that was lost on this lot since it was first surveyed and made into a subdivision in the 50s. As you can see, the point down on the other side is coming down and we're washing out here, which is just a natural progression of a stream or a river. So this lot has shrunk from its original intent, which has created a problem for us because we have that much less to build on. We didn't know that we were supposed to do something with the variance. We thought the variance went on forever. I thought it went with the property. And I actually agree with the board's findings. We don't need an additional variance other than what we asked for. What we asked for, our lot, that's house, is designed, and if you'll go, look at me, you'll go right here, you can see that's the piling layout of our house. Every bit of it's inside the setbacks. I designed it, I don't know how, let me get over here and point. No, not this one. You know, so I've got the house this far over. I mean, I drew these plans, so that, I mean, I've got this house this far over, but you'll look back at another picture, we have an airstream, and the airstream is to go underneath the house. So I gotta pull in this driveway and back it in. So by pulling the house here, you're making me swing out into wetlands to back the airstream. We don't want the airstream sitting out in the lot. We don't want it out in the weather. We don't want anybody complaining about it. We want it underneath the house. So we back it in right here, back in right there. Can you see that?
No?
I think that's still gonna get through to the wetland buffer there.
All right, go back where I was.
As you're showing it, you're already cutting through the wetland.
That driveway's been in the wetland buffer for 30 years.
You can't do that.
You're talking about extending it there.
We gotta get in right, we drive in, all right, let's say we drive in right here. But the more you bring the house this way, the more you make us drive out of the wetlands to get in underneath it. That's why it's in that far corner. Because the house is real small, it's a small lot. The house is only 16 foot wide, you know, which is real small. We'd love to make the house wider, but that's just all we've got. And the more you bring it down this way, the more you swing us into the wetlands. So it really needs to stay as it's staked out in the piling plan.
Well, and that piling plan is not reflective of the, because as we said, that overhang is over 7
7 feet.
across.
All right, the overhang is 12 foot in the air.
And that is not inconsequential to what the variance request is. It doesn't matter if it's touching the ground. It's what's across that setback line. So inconsequential. when it's
That's
on the
why
ground.
they wanted me to ask for the additional variance. And what that is, that's my daughter's baby crib. That one little bump out, right, let's go back. Yeah, right there. That first little bump out is my daughter's crib. The whole house is super small. We'd love to have more property, you know, we'd love to have more of a variance. We'd love to make it bigger. But that first little bump out highlighted all the way around is my daughter's baby crib.
Baby.
And the rest of them really don't hang over. The other one just hangs over not less than a foot.
So what is the footprint of the house? It's 16 by,
48,
okay.
yeah, it's small. You can, we can flip through the, I think it looks good. I think it looks real good. Well, oh, okay, I'm sorry. With, okay. I don't know why it runs out, but right here, there's the floor plan of the house. It's in here, I don't know why
Have you tried to lay this out, the driveways out, to
Yeah,
demonstrate
I've
that
done all
you've,
that, yeah.
it would have
I
been,
will say, in regards to the driveway, there is allowances for crossing wetlands when you are landlocked. But if you have another means to get to your house, I doubt very seriously Eric's gonna allow any more encroachment.
I would
into that
agree.
wetland line.
Yeah,
So you might have to rethink your plan anyway.
yeah.
Because just to get an airstream in is not enough reason to cut into wetland buffers for a driveway. And especially when you have the northernmost of that site that can come.
Okay,
right
can we, I'm gonna go back, there you go. Now look at that. You see that? The wetlands are right here. The wetlands are right here. So it's all grass. It's been grass for a long time.
What we're looking at, when you do a wetland delineation, we're looking at what you provided us. And that is the wetland line
Right.
that you
You
provided
Yeah,
us.
it is,
So it's much bigger than that little one area.
Yep.
All right,
That's,
go back
that's,
to
see
it.
that wetland?
Go
right
back
there?
to it, go back to it.
Well, that's it. You see that wetland
No,
that's
the-
flagged by others?
Yeah, I had the flag. I had the lady come out there, she flagged it.
and that's what's shown on that survey. as
Yeah,
well.
and it's right, I mean, yeah, sure, it's right there. I mean, right there's the Edinburgh driveway and there's a wetland. And it's been like that, I couldn't tell you how long.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? So,
Yeah,
why
it's been like
can't you
that forever.
put your driveway to the right of the property? Like go down Creek Drive and then pull in,
Yeah,
not
this-
where the
oh,
wetlands
you
is, but the
understand.
other side.
This driveway was here when we bought the property. So I can't tell you it's our driveway. And this is the way it's been since the property's been there.
He's asking why not put the driveway on the other end of the site?
We want to put a circular driveway.
Well, you could still do that.
Yeah, we can, yeah. Yeah, we plan on it.
So you can enter, so I guess you can enter the, if you're gonna do a circular thing, you enter it from each side of
Yeah,
the
each side
lot.
right here. Well, you gotta realize, you drive 2 cars out there and the whole lot's full.
Yeah, it's a small
The whole
lot.
thing, yeah, it's real small.
But you have a water slough, you couldn't come in from the east.
We come in right here, right here. Right where we're planning. We're planning, and I've got it drawn on the site, on the permit plan. We got a circular driveway right there.
So why are we talking about wetlands?
So you can't do it. Look at your map.
And this is where the challenge comes in. You could come in with a driveway here and loop it like this.
In the wetlands.
That's completely
Can't
feasible.
do.
Can't do it.
But getting back
So
in
we'd have to
here,
come out here anyway.
this is where the wetland buffer, as presented to us, you couldn't extend this driveway anywhere this way. So it would have to stay on this side of that blue line. and you
That's
need
right.
work. So if that's the case, the loop here, you could still pull the RV or anything under the house that's located there.
It looks like you could.
But all that, that's not really what we're talking about, or what I'm asking. All I'm asking is to leave the house where I've got it staked out. It fits within inside all the setbacks. And you realize we're talking about, when you're talking about a yard, let's go back. I think, I'm going the wrong way, I'm sorry. I'm pushing the wrong one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should be pushing, there we go, right there.
Rob, I don't see any other plans you gave us, but this is everything that we.
Yeah, well, that's fine. It just might not be on there.
I don't see anything with a driveway plan.
Okay, that's on the building right there. All right. So we're talking about yard. All right, what I'm asking for is a little bump out right here, okay? None of the neighbors can see it. you see there's all trees here, there's all trees there. You know, this lady here is way over here. This is Brian Metcalf, he's way over here. He's down there. All the neighbors are fine with it. They don't have any problem at all. I think they've had letters saying, you know, it's fine. 'Cause nobody can see it. What I'm talking about, I love a bump out. 12 foot up in the air. That my daughters can put the baby cushion. You know, the whole thing is, it's really double wide, you know, sitting up on top. Because I don't really need to increase the setback any more than the variance, the original variance.
What you're showing on the plan, is that the walls or is that the eave? Because you do have some long eaves shown on your elevation. So, that outline, is that your walls? Or is that your exterior eaves? 'Cause
Look at the pile, look at the pile. That's really the best way to look at the house. Let me see.
I don't think that tells us the full story. So you see that elevation right there? That has the walls approximately 4 feet out, and then the eaves
there
are
it
a
is.
little over 3 feet.
Okay, let me get this where that is. Okay. You know, this is my house right here. If you were to go on the property and you were to walk down each one of these setbacks, this is the 30 foot, not the 40. If you were to walk down these setbacks all the way around, you'd walk just like this. There's no house, there's no nothing. You'd walk all the way around, all the way around. My house is with inside and designed with inside the setbacks that we were given.
It's not, your pylons are within the setback, the house isn't. That's my understanding, is that, do I have that right?
No, the house is.
No, it isn't. It's
No.
overhanging into the setback.
If you've got a 5 foot from your neighbor's property line, and you go 12 foot in the air and build 10 foot over, well, you're on the neighbor's property.
But we don't. But we don't.
But you're across the setback.
A fictitious line. This is the neighbor that's looking at that line. There's another neighbor on the other side. And you realize this is out here behind the line of trees. You can't see it from the road. They can't see it from the side. This guy, right here, if he stops back here and looks down there, oh yeah, there it is. It's poking out over that fictitious line. It's my baby, my grandson's kid, twin. That's all it is. That's anything for me. I've got a small little bitty house, wedged in there. If I rotate it over and slide it down, and then you're pushing me much closer to your buffer.
Can I ask you a couple questions? So I understand your thoughts and your concerns associated with a little bit of this, but I'm not really following your chain of logic about why you can't move it further to the south, I guess the southwest on the property, closer to the wetland buffer, because it looks like everything would fit, and like kind of how they showed with the lines there.
It does fit.
What are your objections besides for your parking your camper underneath it? What other objections?
I
do you
don't have any.
So, from what we understand of the zoning ordinance and understand of what Hunter's been telling us, is that the footprint of the house is not just the piling, but what's your actual first floor plan. Floor plan's up in the air, it's oversetting, it goes beyond the setback line, the 30-foot setback line. So if you slide it forward, you won't have that issue. If you leave it where it is, we have to give you a bigger variance than what was approved 10 years, whenever many years ago.
Well,
Now,
and then we also have a problem that I think your first question was getting to, if and why I'm trying to get clarification on what the wall, what's shown there. It's the wall, well, the eve is 3.5 foot out.
right, we have to
Would
shorten
require
it.
either a greater variance or a redesign of the architecture of the building.
Correct.
Than what's even presented here.
Yeah.
But
so-
I don't have to have the E, that's just for looks.
Yeah, so I'm just, but is, well, I understand what we grant hardships, the variance on is based off of hardship. And if you can slide it forward and not increase the hardship, you're getting rid of that, the necessary hardship there. Your hardship is be able to drive underneath the house from two directions Now you can only drive underneath the house from one direction.
No, I can only drive in from this, I can only drive in
From the side?
from this end right here. I can only drive in from right here.
But you said you were gonna have a circular drive, so I'm.
Driveway's out here,
Okay,
but if I want to get underneath the house, I can only get in from this end.
but I don't understand why.
I don't
Okay,
either.
there's another, there's piling over there.
Water.
But
But you can't,
but
the
if you pull
driveway,
it, if you pull it further this way, you could drive in from the other side. You're only stopping yourself because you push yourself too far to the corner if you slide it.
No, I want
That
to,
way.
you know, no,
I
you
don't
know,
understand. I just don't understand that, sir, I'm sorry.
And I do want to clarify something, because this is common.
Yeah.
It's, people have a floor plan and an architectural plan and think, well, doesn't work with my existing plan. But this board is not approving floor plans. They're approving variances that are run with the land forever and can't tie it to an existing floor plan. So something can happen here and, you know, this not get built for another 8 years, and then somebody else buy it and would, you know, have that problem, or it gets halfway built and recorded. So that's the things that we have to look at, not where your pilings sit right now.
and see, I agree with that. I agree with that. And I agree with the original denial. I want it, just like we had it approved before. I'm just gonna hang out a little bit. It doesn't matter. I'm just letting you know I'm gonna hang out a little bit.
That turns into a denial of a building permit if you don't meet the variance.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Lisa wants to speak.
well, hold on.
You have to-
Just a second. We're not in the public hearing portion.
Oh, okay.
I'm just, the only reason why, from your perspective, you can't pull it forward is parking your RV underneath it, the way you have it designed right now to park underneath it. Is that correct?
This is what I did. I'm an architect. I went to Auburn. I designed this to meet our variance. It's designed to meet the variance. This is really new to me, talking about overhangs. I've been building in Fairhope for 40 years now. Yeah, and I've built houses all up and down the bay and all over. And when they come out there and they survey that house, and they do an as-built survey at the very end, they walk over to the first vertical structure, and they measure to that. And you might be going down the line, there might be an AC platform or something hanging over. It's fine. And then you look at that stakeout survey. There it is. There's my design, fitting under there. That's as far up that way as I can go. I can't drive, I can't turn. Let me get over here.
you know that the driveway has to be out of the wetland setback, right? A wetland buffer.
Right.
The driveway's there right now.
So you're assuming that you're gonna build a driveway in the wetland buffer?
I'm just telling you where it is. It's been that way.
I know, are you assuming, that's not my question, are you assuming that you're gonna use that driveway?
No, I can redo the driveway. I'm gonna redo the driveway.
Are you gonna move it out of the wetland buffer?
I can do this. The driveway itself right now is out of the wetlands.
It's in the buffer, though.
I get the buffer.
I don't think you can put it in the buffer,
You
right?
can't.
That's.
You can't.
You're talking about coming in from this end. You realize all that over there is water. All that's water. I have to turn. I can't get in over the water.
But you could drive straight in underneath the house the other direction too. I mean, there's,
No.
you're making
You don't have enough room.
choices.
It's only 16 foot that way.
You're making choice, it's longer than 16 feet.
If your house is only 16, that's 30 feet. You got 30
It's
foot depth there.
10 plus 15 plus 5, so that's 30 feet from the porch to the edge, outside edge of your house, without any of the overhangs that you're showing. I mean, that's what your stakeout survey showed. That's 30
You can
feet.
ask my structural engineer that question. I can't, the piling, the structure's going this way. The piling are laid out 8 foot on center going this way. So you really can't get between 8 foot.
I'm going back to what Hunter just said a minute ago, that we can't base the approval off of your particular set of plans.
And I'm not asking you to.
But
What I'm
you-
asking you to do
It's
is
your-
let me have my variance that I had before. This house was designed to fit
But,
that variance.
but if you get the variance you had before, you can't build the house, is what I'm hearing from, because.
Yes, I can.
No, you
No, you
can't. That's what you need to hear, you can't.
You cannot build this house.
Because of that one little bump there.
You cannot build this house.
Because of that one bump there.
You got two.
Well, the other one's buried there. I can swing it around a little bit and take that one bump out on it. Is that all you need?
You see the highlighted part, and we
Yeah.
didn't answer the questions. So if you get the 10-foot variance, we can look at plans to see how they can be amended. But, or you can get the 10-foot and move it south a little bit. I think everybody's trying to help out there.
No.
But that would have to, if that's the exterior wall, that would have to be inside the setbacks, and then you would have to cut your eaves down to 2 feet.
All right. This is what I go for. Okay? That's nothing. I can bring that down a little bit. It stays right where it needs to stay. Keep me out of the way. I'm trying to stay out of the way.
What do you mean, if you cut it off? where
No,
it's
I'm
not
going to
outside?
rotate it around a little bit.
Okay.
She's going to rotate it around a bunch and slide it down.
House
I tell you, I can't really do that because of the wetlands.
Okay.
A
And
variance.
here's another.
Here it is, right here.
Haven't talked about the entrance, but if you're planning on pulling into the house this way, you're gonna have to extend that driveway through here. Now, it may be that those are no longer wetlands, but what you've shown us, you can extend this driveway under that house.
Okay?
So does that work for you?
Yeah.
And what I'm curious is, because y'all all here saying we don't have a hardship, but you're not
No,
providing.
ma'am, we are not, we agree there's a hardship, and we agree to support the same variance that was granted in 2014.
And we didn't build then because the whole creek blew out. We lost the bulkhead, we lost everything
She
about
has
it.
to come to the mic.
Or we would have built then. So the shape of the lot is
And
different than it was in 2014, is what we're all trying to say.
So you can just say, we do have a public hearing, or you, Tricia,
Yes.
if you wouldn't mind, come up, just say your name, and we have a public record, we have it.
And I'm not the authority on this, I've just owned it since 2006.
If you'll state
My
your
name
name
is-
for the record.
My
so
name is
people-
Tricia Littleton at this point. It was Niemeyer when I purchased the property. Yes, we,
What's your address?
302 Poplar Place, Fairhope.
Thank you.
And we did go before a board just like this in 2014, or maybe a little prior to that. We did not understand that a variance had to be recorded and was no good. But subsequently, right away, the whole thing, the creek blew out, we had nothing. Then we had to go through the Corps of Engineers, ADEM, and all that. And that took about 3 years to just get where we were then. Throw in a lot of other stuff, 2000, whatever. If you're asking me why we didn't build, there was a myriad of reasons. We're now ready to build. And the lot we bought in 2006 is not the lot that the variance was granted on. The wetlands, and if y'all could see all this, and I know it's really hard for you to imagine, you know, if you had aerial photographs or we had a drone or something, because all those black and white lines look like everybody's supposed to know what they're talking about when actually, and I hear you think that I should be privileged to want to pull in my Airstream. You almost can't pull a vehicle in there without encroaching. I have cones marking the wetlands that have already been delineated because it's a marsh. So it's, I just need to be able to swing it. And if you make me put the house this way, I'm not going to be able to get a Volkswagen in or the golf cart that I had to ride up here in. It's just not room. So I don't understand why the discussion over hardship, no hardship, or whatever. I get, yes, my husband's been building since before time here. I as well. The footprint, the pilings used to be, now y'all are telling me what used to be doesn't exist anymore. And it used to be that if you didn't have vertical supports, it wasn't considered a part of the equation for a setback. And so that's why we drew what we did, because the whole freaking thing is only 16 feet wide. I needed 4 feet somewhere. He can call it a baby bed, I can call it whatever. But I'm just saying, if you force it, and we cannot come in from the other side. You haven't seen the property, or maybe you have,
I have.
but there's a slough, and now the city's been out there, you got storm drains, you got power poles. There is no way to access the property from the other side. To drive in, under, through, any way you look at it, it can't be done. If you want us to take eaves off, we're happy to take eaves off. That's all Rob and his lipstick and brackets and stuff. Collectively, all of our neighbors have written letters, one of them is here. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're all dying for us to build because, I mean, you know, I don't think this is going to create a precedent that's going to put y'all in jeopardy. I really don't. And I know that's what you have to look at because, and most of y'all are in real estate. So you get this. It's all about a precedent. And the next person's going to come along and say, well, gee, you gave her 14 feet. I don't know, guys. It is a hardship. It's not what you think on this black and white. I would love, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I'd like the one neighbor that came, because there's only 3 of them, to say what she thinks.
The reason why I'm asking the question that way, I want you to all explain the hardship in better detail, to explain why, if I understand if you could slide it to one direction, it reduces your need of a hardship. Your only hardship you're describing to me is the ability to pull up an Airstream. And if you said, well, I can't move it this way because there's something else here, why we need that extra 4 feet for this reason, that would explain to the board why you need the additional 4 feet in width. It's not just because I think I want to pull an Airstream in this way, and then I'm hearing from other board members and Hunter, you probably can't do that anyways because there's a driveway issue of pulling in, creating the driveway there anyways.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand the rest of your hardship reasoning. That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay.
I'm not pushing against you in a different way that maybe that's what you're thinking.
It feels that way.
I'm just trying to, I guess I'm trying to draw it out of you a little bit more.
So I guess I'm asking, because I've heard it said here, that we can't use the driveway we have, and it has to go further out of the wetlands,
That's what I'm hearing.
which means that the house has to stay even further where we have it drawn on the property. Because if the driveway is going to go from the west closer to the middle of the property, I can't come in from the middle and then make a circle and come back around where you're telling me to locate the house. That doesn't work. I mean, if my current driveway is in the wetlands, and that's where I'm coming in now, and you're telling me that that's illegal, and I gotta move it closer to the middle, then what you're saying is that I'm gonna come in from the middle, and then I'm gonna do this to go back under? I can't, that's not possible.
And I think accessing underneath the house, one of the most common ways to do that is kind of at a 90 at the street, coming straight off the street and drive right under the house. That is, as you stated, is the way it's drawn, difficult because your pylons are on 8-foot centers. I don't want whatever happens here to get approval and y'all think that we're ready for a permit, and then it's not the driveway you have, it's extending the drive under the house. That's where getting in this wetland buffer is a problem, and we can't give you a permit for that when you have other alternatives. So can you truly show that there's no alternative that might be cutting down some of the shrubs? Maybe some of the
There are
trees.
no shrubs, there's no trees, and the
In the front of
pylon.
the house, Bob, they said there's
Oh,
trees.
there's trees there, but I'm just saying, so
So
the
you can come
structural
straight
engineer
off
has engineered this on 8-foot centers.
that
That's
is-
code, I can't change that.
That's not code.
No.
That's not good. That's a design desire.
Yes.
You can make them 12 feet wide, 14 feet wide.
Yeah, your spans can increase.
I mean,
is-
that's not a code thing. That's a design feature from the engineer. I mean, it may be how he does the design, but it's wider in the other direction. It's not a code
Yeah.
thing. I'm just
There are no
saying-
shear walls, and so for safety hurricane purposes, the 8-foot centers, there are no shear walls. It's 16 feet wide. I can't have a shear wall. There's no room to have a shear wall. So for Eric to approve it, I got to create shear. The only way for me to create shear was those 8-foot centers.
I can't say yes or no to that. I don't know the rest
I
of the
understand.
design.
I mean,
But I
we
know
have-
all about shear walls, but I don't know the rest of the
We've done a
design.
lot of due diligence to come up with a plan that met as closely as what it does. And if you don't want the 4-foot bump out, I get it. But I can't move the property in the direction that you're suggesting.
Move the house.
The house, right.
That's the trade-off. I mean, I'm not Well, I'm asking why you need the extra 4 feet to give you the bump out to leave the house where it is. That's what we have to vote on.
You want to answer that question? You want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I
what's
went in
your
there to get
additional
my
hardship?
permit. Because I went in there to get my permit, and he said, oh, this bump out's hanging over. Well, that's the first I've ever heard. Because that's relatively new in Fairhope, I guess is what.
No, we've
It's been here forever.
had, and it's always been a maximum of 2 feet. What has changed is, there was kind of a escalation and sometimes an abuse of that, where instead of architectural details, it became people having 20 feet wide living room just extending 2 feet out. And the first few, didn't have an eave, and then the eaves came out, so we wound up 1 foot from property lines in a lot of places.
So when did this happen?
It's never been 7 feet over a setback line of any project I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm not.
So I do see the drainage here on the, I guess that's the north side. Is that like the city? Is there anywhere that shows how big that is? And
It's brand new. It's not on any survey, it's brand new.
And they're still working on it. They dug up the whole street because it collapsed.
then the power panel that is, I can't tell how far that is that your power panel or is that the city?
Well, there's a pole there. That won't be ours. It'll be gone when we build.
Okay.
See, that's temporary.
But there is a telephone pole.
Yeah, there's a power pole there.
So that would be hard to, I mean, I can't tell how many feet are between those two, so I don't know
Right, so
if it's room for a
hard to get
driveway or
around
not.
that way. Yeah, I mean, I'm really here just to talk about the bump out. I mean, that's all. I went through all this trouble just for the bump out, really. The house itself fits in there.
But you also have wetlands that were delineated in that area over by the slough, so you're really not gonna be able to do anything there.
Correct.
You've got new culverts, you've got.
Yeah, she's talking about over to this side.
That's on the
Those don't
north
show
side?
up on the-
Well, they're brand new. They're brand new.
They haven't been expecting the street yet.
So
She's talking-
you
this
just,
drain-
you done a new delineation?
No, she's talking about drainage. She's talking
The
about.
city drainage.
Well, you just said wetlands on that side.
Initially when, Jennifer was or Gina, there were wetlands over in that area a long time ago. I don't know the wetlands go away, once they're delineated. So over where the slough is,
They're not wetlands now. All that got dug up with the city put drainage in.
And wetlands can go away.
I would think you would compromise what the city has just done, because they've done riprap. There's no drive. I mean, there's no road there.
Okay. Oh, I now see what that. Yeah, she's talking about over here. This has gotten much bigger in the last few weeks, and they've done a great job. That it's all this was collapsed, and they had to come in and make it a lot bigger. So this is all a lot bigger, and there's now a drainage pipe going down through here, and there's riprap right here. This is the power pole everybody's talking about, so you would have to try to come in between here, and back in over here. That's how we're gonna really do that, And we got the width over here, so here's the power pole. This is the temporary panel. It'll go away when we get the power over to the house. This is the driveway that's been there since the beginning of, whenever, 50, 60, I don't know how long. It's been there a while.
And I guess, Hunter, my one other question was on one of those, it showed that the house next door looked, if we can go back to that one, I had a question about the variance that they had in that red. Do you see how close this house?
Yeah,
Above
that's actual
is-
pier, yeah.
No, I'm looking at the house, on the next lot.
It looks like it's sitting right on the property line almost.
Right.
You have a Robert Brown house?
Well, I think the house is,
Yeah, that's Robert Brown's.
the footprint's over here.
Right.
Okay.
That's over here, so yes, push back on the water side on that.
It looks like he's right on the property line, yeah. But what he did, his lot got built out further. So theoretically, he thinks his property line's further out there. But
Well,
really-
I'm curious about other variances that have been given to just see what else has been done close by.
What variance was given
believe they did have a variance in this. That was before my time. But I believe there was variances granted.
Well, he just built that house.
I
before my
don't,
time. He's been, he was here when
I don't remember that.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
You don't remember that one?
Mm-mm.
If y'all wouldn't mind, a neighbor is here if y'all want to open a public hearing, and then we can close the
Yeah,
public
but you
hearing.
can see, yeah, and see, you can see my property used to go, my property, her property, our property goes, really used to go right, really to his field.
Well, and I know that is common on most of these lots, the historic property line. I think there has been 2 variances around here, I know since I've been here. One of them, I believe, was the adjacent lot here. And then there was another one down at the other end, J.J. McCool's property.
Yeah, Jay did, yeah.
And his is probably really exemplified with where the original platted lot is. I believe it was almost like 30 feet out. Now, that is a burden, but that we don't judge setbacks where the land is. We actually go on the historically recorded. Now, some people do different. If you were in the county, they're gonna say your lot is now where the property line is, and the other becomes waters of the state, so you can't count that. We'll actually go based on the recorded plat. So,
Oh, wow. That helps us a lot.
yeah.
Well, then maybe we just build out over the water then. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing, and if you'll come up and state your name and address for us.
I'm Lisa Adams. I live at 360 Creek Drive. Take a breath here. I've lived on Creek Drive for 25 years. There was nothing there, just a few neighbors, mostly older houses. I think Mr. Council developed the street, and we have watched it change over the years, but Tricia Niemeyer has been a neighbor for 16 years, and she bought the property, and I can attest that she has never done anything outside of a beautiful environmental integrity to any of it. She appreciates Fly Creek. She loves Fly Creek. She wanted to own that property because she loves Fly Creek. And we met, I guess it was 18 or 20 years ago, maybe. But I have seen Creek Drive change over the years, and there's a lot of different things that have gone on. Mr. Council, who developed it, what I understand from the city of Fairhope now, recently, with all the changes, is that the subdivision was developed in 1962. And the property that my husband and I bought and raised a family there has been there, and there's clay pipes that run under the street that collapsed, and the infrastructure is collapsing, and it's finally caught the attention of the city, thankfully. But I can say honestly that Rob, who's an architect and an engineer, Tricia, who does beautiful designs and development all over Fairhope and Baldwin County, I don't think there's any malintent as far as developing. I welcome them as a neighbor, not because I just like them a lot, but because I'm an environmental person too. I've worked for 35 years in environmental management and planning and urban planning and regulatory and compliance and everything else. So I work for Mobile County, so I deal with all this all day long. What I would say is, if you have a problem with the bump out on the design, then say that. They are not developing this property to hurt the wetlands. I have lived there for 25 years. It is protected by me. There is no reason that they would do anything to harm it. They're not asking for the setback other than a design of their house and what they want for their future. And I have seen a lot of things that Fairhope has done and agreed to, and overlooked. I won't get into that. But this is a benefit to the neighborhood, to the street. You could not ask for more professional people to be involved in the design, and I am here to support them. I have no problem with it. I've lived there for so long, it's like I would not let anyone step up and do anything that would cause harm to the environment. I am environmental planning, so that's my career forever. They just happen to get lucky to buy property across the street from me. But I have paddled that waterway forever. So I'm asking you to consider their plan. This man's an architect, engineer again, and I know there's rules and things, but I know there's other things that go on, but there is not a harm that they are doing for their proposed plan. There's no harm. If it was a bumped out overhang that was shadowing submerged aquatic vegetation or something like piers do all over the bluff, I would say, yeah, think about that. They're only asking for a small variance, basically 2 feet, because we said the 2 feet beforehand. So they're asking for a 4 foot. You can say the 7 foot, which you added to the 3 and 4. Anyway, I kept up with the whole thing. So there's not a lot that they are asking for. And I have no problem with them. My neighbors have no problem with it. I can't vouch for them, but I think they would come forward if you want to hear them individually. They will. But there's not a problem with this design. The wetlands are protected. We protect it on our street. We take care of things on the creek. We watch out for development. I have been here speaking many times for the Up Creek development, which is Publix and apartments and everything else. So this is someone who wants to build a home and take care of a place there. And that's all I have to say.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against it? We'll close the public portion. Board members would like to discuss and adopt a motion.
I keep looking at this house, I guess that is just north of them, that is obviously got a variance where it looks like the house is almost on the property line.
Well, and so take this into account too, because what you're seeing on the screen is not a survey. That is the parcel viewer from the county. That is parcels overlaid with an aerial. Both of those things can have skews. So, I mean, it's very likely that that is 5 feet from the property line, is what I would guess. Usually 5 feet is kind of one of those, nobody crosses that line. And that's kind of what we're allowing here with this variance, is 5 feet from the rear property line. So it's the same situation.
Same situation, 5 feet?
30-foot variance where your 35 is required. So we're allowing 5 feet, but not just the corner, the whole back of the house.
I have a question, how we treat this. So we're looking at the recommendation, but then we're also talking about the variance that was approved in 2014. Two separate issues. So do they have to come back and apply for the 2014? Because that's not anywhere in their material.
No, ma'am. So you can disregard staff recommendation. That is fully what this process is for. And you can approve the variance as requested. You can do anything less than that. So,
okay.
And not, where we have to go through the legal process of re-advertising is if somehow in this meeting, it was determined that more of a variance is needed. We would have to publicly re-advertise that.
I see.
You don't have a plan that shows the proposed driveway and how this is really a hardship to get the vehicles in? Do you have any kind of a plan that shows driveways?
I do not. This is the plans that we received for the variance request. It may be submitted, it may have been submitted with a building permit, but this is, we are two different departments, so this is what we received.
And somebody will be responsible for checking out the driveway and make sure it's not in the buffer.
And there are means where they can cross a buffer. Typically, that threshold is, do you have another alternative?
Right.
It could be that, you know, the wetland delineation is redone. I don't know if this line was from the one in 2014. You know, I don't know if this is a new one, but that'll be looked at within the building permit, and we will be reviewing those as well.
And is this driveway that, I guess is just south of there, is that part of the wetlands too? To, I guess,
part of the
another
buffer.
lot?
So this is, I know they're just lines on paper, but it's what we received. So when Gina told you, people like that, those scientists, we don't go out and do wetland delineation. We have to rely on what is given to us. So the line here is shown as a wetland line.
Okay,
That is the wetland itself. Our wetland ordinance requires a buffer around those wetlands of 20 feet. Within that wetland buffer, you're limited on what you can do, and there are some stipulations that you can cross a wetland to access a lot if there's no other means available.
okay,
So where my worry would be is, okay, the existing driveway there, we're not gonna make people go mitigate and take that driveway up. It's there, it's been there for ages. But extending that around to get in the house is where I think there would be under the house from that end, I think there would be conflicts. Based on what we were given, it may be that, and the wetland delineation is done and say that was a wetland from 2014, the fauna is not there now. And it's not a wetland, so I'm not saying there couldn't be a mitigation, but, and even then, when those are crossings, wetland mitigation has to happen on site, and that's at a 4, 5, or 6 to 1 ratio, so I don't think that's feasible on a lot this long either. So that's where I'm a little concerned on getting access through there, based on the information we provided.
actually, my question was, just south of there, there's another, it looks like a little strip to go to another lot. Is that all across? I mean, I don't have one
It's
page
not-
that has everything
It's
on
on
it.
the overall site plan that you had, not that, I mean the aerial photo.
Yeah, that's the driveway to Brian Metcalf.
Okay,
And there was wetlands on his, he came in and, that was the one that was Metcalf that we gave the variance to.
okay, all right. So that is another driveway then that runs along there. Right?
That's a driveway, then,
Yeah.
isn't it? You have a driveway?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
how he accesses the lot. Well, the lot actually starts there and goes all the way through. And I believe he sent you all a letter also, Brian Metcalf.
I did see that.
We did receive one letter, and that was the one we received.
And that's either that, these are adjacent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion.
I would recommend that we deny BOA 22.04, and however, we would support the variance that was approved in 2014 with the front setback of 10 feet and the rear setback of 30 feet.
Second?
All in favor, we'll take a roll call vote. We'll start with you.
Aye.
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 Motion carries as the amended recommendation.
just a reminder, got to record this. We will send a notice of action letter to the applicant, and that will need to be recorded at the probate and get a building permit started within the next year.
Thanks for saying that, because we didn't know it last time. We really didn't, I would have.
Yeah, we hate those two coming back. I mean, that's one of those, it's not a hidden secret, nobody's trying, you know, we don't want to go through this twice either.
Yeah.
Is there any meetings for next month?
We do have 2 cases planned for next month. So we will have an agenda, sent out.
I won't be here, I'll be up in Arkansas for my 6-month checkup.
A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's what I need to do, take that step.
Keep forgetting.